Yeah, at all. So, as predicted, digital IDs got unveiled. For me personally, it's about 10 o'clock last night, and I was on at the gym, and I happened to look on my phone just to see what the time was, and it was pretty much there as one of the headlines, the leading headline that Commissar Starmer, sorry, I didn't mean that deliberately, but he's obviously started to unveil the digital IDs that we've all been predicting. So round two, here we go again. I couldn't help but think of this movie clip from They Live.
Our projections show that by the year 2025, not only America, but the entire planet will be under the protection and the dominion of this power alliance. The gains have been substantial, both for ourselves and for you, the human power elite.
But anyway, I'd strongly recommend people go and have a look at that movie if you're like-minded. They Live. It's a full movie. You can find it on YouTube. Made in 1988. I won't spoil the plot for you, but it's far too close to the truth, everything that's unveiling right now. And it makes you wonder if there's a lot more to that movie. Maybe Mr. David Icke was actually just saying it as it was. Maybe David Icke is someone who's been put there by these things, these entities, shall we say, to tell us the exact truth, because it's like their karma sort of rules. They tell us exactly how it is, and it's up to us. We either laugh it off and dismiss it, or we take it on board. But they told us, obviously back on the Terry Wogan show back in the day, when he came out in his turquoise tracksuit, everyone sniggered at him, laughed at him. Was it 10, 15 years later, he went back again, did Terry Wogan again, and people weren't sniggering anymore. You know, people were starting to wake up by that time. Reassuring, it has to be said, reading through some of the comments, even on LBC, I was dreading reading through LBC's comments, because, you know, I thought everyone was going to be on board with it, on that, even there against it. And yeah, so I mean, resist like nothing you have resisted before. You've got 2.4 thousand likes on that comment. All you need to do is say no. Yeah, so it's good. You know, there's plenty of people against it. I'll go on to the petition, see where we're up to on that. I have to say, towards good old Essex, where I've come from today, Essex, you know, I spent most of my life there, you know, from the age of 17, sort of 20 years ago, and I've had a bit of a hit and miss relationship with them, you know, different accent, totally different group of people to the North and the Midlands. But in the times we're in now, I couldn't ask to be amongst a better bunch of people, to be honest. A lot of them are ex-Londoners, and have moved out to Essex. So, you know, I mean, Clacton, yet again, you know, so basically on the right-hand side here, it's percentages, and dark red was obviously mean that people are obviously against it and have voted for, on this online petition, against the digital IDs. And Essex has absolutely smashed it. You know, I mean, where's this? Braintree, they've smashed against it. Of course they would, because they've got RAF Wethersfield nearby. You know, they understand what's going on. Clacton, full of ex-East Enders who've been driven out of their former communities courtesy of politicians. All these surrounding towns, Brentwood, you know, they understand, you know, what's going on inside London. Even on the Thames, down East Thurrock, Basildon. One thing is very telling. So obviously it's dark red around Essex, gets a bit less around Norfolk, Suffolk. Wales has done really well as well against it. Southwest, Devon and Cornwall as well. I thought Somerset would be a bit more against it, obviously after what I've seen on my trips. But what is very telling, London. London is obviously full of a lot of wealthy people, middle-class lefties, which are probably the worst because they don't practice what they preach. At least like a lefty in Somerset living on out of a caravan, fair play to you. You practicing what you preach. But London, look at it. I mean, London as well is the most populated area, and yet the vast majority of it is sort of like amber sort of colour, yellow colour, which means not many people have voted on that online petition to go against it. But you go to Essex, it's all dark red, which is fantastic. Northern England's done alright as well, if I remember correctly. If I can go up. East Yorkshire's well against it. County Durham, Northumberland's fairly against it. West Cumbria's against it. Lancashire, areas of North Yorkshire, West Yorkshire not so much. Where's this? Wetherby not so much. Derbyshire Dales not so much either. But overwhelmingly, there's plenty of people voting against it. So that's the online petition. I'll just quickly try and find if I can get a update on where we're up to. So 470,000 signatures, and it continues to increase. Bear in mind that's only 24 hours on, so that is very reassuring to see that. There you go, 1.4, nearly 1.5 million basically, and we're only 24 hours in, which is amazing. Does it tell you exactly when it got published? Sorry, just bear with me a second. No, I've got more details, might be on there. So what did it say? We think this would be a step towards mass surveillance and digital control, and that no one should be forced to register with a state-controlled ID system. We oppose the creation of any national ID system. ID cards were scrapped in 2010. That would be the Tories and Lib Dems, in our view, for good reason. We don't need a digital ID. So I've covered They Live. This is GB News, come across this.
And ergo, the digital ID card will not identify the British, it will split the British. And that's why Starmer is declaring a civil war against his own country.
The government, they've announced these digital IDs to try and disincentivise people crossing the channel illegally. What do you make of these digital IDs?
It doesn't sound like that's what it's about. I mean, people are getting rid of their passports and coming over. I mean, it's a one-way trip for them, but the digital ID, I feel like it's just tracking, and it's something that a lot of people are going to be happy about.
It's a good idea for people, you know, especially it's the elderly that you got to think about, because they won't understand what they're going on about, will they?
To be honest.
Yep. So the black fellow before, spot on. It's about tracking. Well done, mate. Like I said on a different video, you can put ethnicities and religions and everything, left, right, all that to one side. It affects everybody in this circumstance. You can put Palestine to one side, all the rest of it. For this moment in time, we're united on one single cause, really. You've also got what the elderly lady was saying there. You know, I've helped out elderly people at the car parks before, because at car parking now, it's just such a pain in the arse. You know, Ringo apps and you know, dodgy buttons that don't operate, and I've helped out a couple of elderly people, and they're just baffled by all this stuff now with all these apps, and it's a load of bollocks, isn't it? It's made it so complicated. Tied in with ANPR as well. So the elderly population, they're going to struggle and be further outed by society. But then again, don't forget Starmer tried to take the winter fuel allowance away from the pensioners. So it tells you what he thinks about the people who've contributed to this country the vast majority of their life and paid tax for however long as well.
Honest, if people are going to come across and take that effort to go on those dinghies, they're going to come across anyway.
I think it's an appalling idea.
Yeah, that's a good point, because they're obviously claiming, as we all knew, people have been saying this long in advance, that they're going to claim they've lost control of our borders, and as a result we all need to have these digital IDs, and it's all out of chaos. But people are looking at it now. I mean, I came up with this saying earlier because I read someone else's saying that they've created an invasion of people, migrants, whatever you want to call them, in order to invade our privacy. And you can quote me on that. Although I just kind of fumbled it. So they've created an invasion of migrants, foreigners, whatever you want to call them, in order to invade our privacy. And that's more or less what they've done. They've tried the order out of chaos tactic that they often do.
Utterly appalling. I think it's an infringement on civil liberties.
It won't stop the black economy, which is everywhere. Everybody with their eyes open sees it, is aware of it. This won't do anything.
I don't see why we have to accept ID cards in this.
Yeah, so what that guy's saying there, it's something I've been thinking, is the arrogance of this, you know, Starmer, and whoever's pulling his strings, to be fair. Starmer's not in control, is he? He's taking orders from the World Economic Forum, the Davos Club, whoever it might be that he's being dictated to. I did notice as well that the Celtic equinox has just passed, and shortly after that, this is when this got brought in. The same as when Boris announced lockdown 2 or 3 on Halloween. I remember sitting there about 11 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, listening to him announce a lockdown again. The same as the original COVID lockdown, which began on 3/22. Obviously, Skull and Bones number, if you want to look up the American Secret Society, which most presidents are part of, 3/22, day after the day after the spring equinox. All these pagan holidays, it must be something to do with their magic occult world. Don't snigger at that. They are literally into that sort of stuff. You know, I've said it before, D-Day, 6th hour, 6th day, 6th month, what is the chance of that? You know, that they are into this world just because you're not, doesn't mean that they're not. You know, they operate on a code, these people do. Like an Eton College Freemasonry sort of world. You know, there's much more to this world than we know.
This country. I'm an honest citizen. I obey the laws. I'm not interested.
It's all about control. It's going to make no difference on...
Again, you know, like the fellow said there, you know, say someone like myself, you know, I've been in the country my whole life. I don't really care about even leaving the country anymore. I'm quite content here for the time being. You know, I'd rather just be left alone by this government. Not this government, just governments in general, to get on with my business, really. I do feel like I'm back to COVID round 2, so I'm back to COVID again, where if they back me into a corner, I'm just not crossing that line. And the reason being is why I won't cross that line, because once you've crossed this line, it's going to get worse and worse. They ain't going to stop. You know, they tried all this 4 or 5 years ago, and it turns out there's a lot more of us that didn't comply with that than we realised. Obviously, the media was telling us that, you know, 9/10 of the population were getting poked in the arm, and they backed down on the COVID passports at least. But yeah, we're back to that situation again now, where little slimy tyrants are trying to bring in authoritarianism by the back door, and I'm just not going to comply with it at all. Even if I have to leave my job, you know, go and live in the woods, go and find somewhere down in Somerset or something, see some off-grid community would take me on board or whatever. If that's how they're going to be, I'm just not going to play their game at all. And the reason being is, long term, they will plan to bring in like a Chinese social credit system. Now, one of my favourite movies is Dread 3D, which came out in 2012, and that is pretty much what they probably dream of. A totally concreted landscape with no vegetation or trees. Any humans get killed, get recycled and get eaten by the population. I know this sounds far-fetched, but there's a movie called Soylent Green, made in the 60s, which projected all this around the time we're living in now. But this intro scene is quite telling. So there's a drone tracking 3 perps from a large CCTV room, surveillance room. Positive ID. So what's coming in at the minute? Facial recognition technology. It's got facial recognition technology coming in, you know, retina scans, fingerprints, IDs. Obviously, fair enough, criminals, you know, that's what Judge Dredd is obviously chasing after. But at the same time, what if we went back to 2020? You know, if we went back to ridiculous things like you can't leave your house only for an hour to do exercise, and you've got all these facial recognition cameras everywhere, surveilling towns, cities, villages, and you're getting pinged. You know, it's not like the days of like anonymity. You know, that's proper Orwellian sort of stuff when you think about it.
On 3 suspects wanted on multiple counts. Any judges, please respond.
Search patrol in pursuit of vehicles, sector 13.
Easily one of the most underrated movies by far. There's another scene with Mama, which is the main antagonist, but that's where they go through like a database of faces. I'm trying to do this video in one take, to be honest, so I don't really want to have to get dragged into editing, etc. But yeah, it's a movie well worth a watch, definitely. Where am I up to now? Moving on to, yeah, so one thing that did strike me yesterday when I finished that video I did last night, or the night before, about the digital ID thing coming in, was a movie called Children of Men. This should really be a separate video. Perhaps I will do it as a separate video, just kind of to broadcast a bit more information. But you've got Children of Men, set in 2027, released around 2006. I remember sitting watching that movie as an 18-year-old, thinking how lovely and peaceful the world was, which it was at that time. The world was a lovely place in the early 2000s. You know, nightlife was busy, people had spare money, Totally different world looking back on it. We didn't have iPhones. We had, you know, like Nokia 3210s, which was enough, which was perfect to kind of get in touch with people, but not where everyone's just glaring at the glow of their phone all day. You know, you didn't have selfies culture and TikTok and people filming everything all the time, people getting on with the business basically. A different world, a better world, I'd say. And a lot more optimism for the future as well. You know, you could still be optimistic about the future. Things changed quickly when them iPhones came in. But anyway, Children of Men, set in 2027, spoiler alert warning. The main plot of the movie is that, in fact the intro scene to the movie anyway kind of sums it up, that the world has lost fertility. You know, women aren't having babies anymore. I wonder whether that's hinting towards pokes in the arm or something like that, or electromagnetic radiation that we're exposed to all the time at the minute. But one of the main factors that I thought was quite interesting, you've got deportations, mass deportations of migrants, what you're hearing about now. There's your order out of chaos. Surely they'd probably tried deporting some patriots amongst the migrants as well, maybe, and where are they actually being deported to as well? Are they going to go to some Epstein Island sort of thing somewhere? But anyway, but also on top of that as well, you've got a combination of communists or leftists or anarchists, whatever you want to call them, and they've united with the Muslims, and there's absolute civil war and chaos on the streets. So this is a scene where we'll call them the lefties living out in the woods down in Kent, I think it is, ambushed a car. On the car as well, you know, you've got a lot of modern sci-fi sort of technology here, like holographic speedometers and fuel gauges, etc. There we go.
I'm not gonna make it, I'm not gonna make it!
There you go. So there's the lefties living out in the woods, and they're obviously ambushing people, etc. And also, this one is obviously the Muslims. London 2027 in this movie, anyway.
We need a boat. A boat. The sea, a boat. A boat.
Now, let's be honest, is that really that far-fetched with what you're seeing on the streets nowadays? You know, like the state. So basically my point being is that, to me, this is all pre-planned. This has been planned long in advance for deportations, the civil unrest, you know, which is inevitable when you've got two conflicting ideologies going against each other, of people wanting to be patriotic and keep England English or Britain British. And yeah, I do mean like white British Europeans, if you like. You can't bring all these Muslims in here and Africans and expect it to all stay exactly the same, because it won't. Eventually, conflict's going to arise, as you can see here. It was made by the Matrix brothers, the brothers. I think they're Polish. It got a Polish surname anyway. That made the Matrix, and they funnily enough went on to have a sex change as well. The pair of them, funnily enough. I don't know, a bit odd, but still. Yeah, I paused the video. Obviously, I had to accept and have to do a little bit of editing. But there you go. This is the a little bit of Judge Dredd, where they used their facial recognition data bank, which is basically the same as a digital ID thing they're calling out. Fingerprints, retinas, and obviously going through the database.
We're dragons. You're judged. They're all right.
There you go. Similar to obviously what we're heading for now. Social credit. So quickly cover social credit. This is Black Mirror Nosedive. If you want to go and find it, I strongly recommend it. Season 3, episode 1. This is a good example of social credit. So you're given a set of points. If you don't play ball, you lose all your points. And your travel gets restricted.
I see there's one standby seat on another plane leaving tonight. That's reserved for members of our Prime Flight program. You got to be a 4.2 or over to qualify.
Oh, I'm a 4.2.
I'm afraid you're actually a 4.183.
And there you go. That's how simple it'll be. And the usual people, the normies, will go, well, we've got nothing to hide, what you to worry about. You know, if you're a good citizen, what you're worried about, fucking hell. You know, see people getting arrested over Facebook posts, people going on patriotic demos against the migrant hotels, which are secret military bases, in my opinion, which are ordinary concerns of decent people. They will become targeted as being in the wrong. You can see it now, you know, like people saying there's only two genders. In this satanic world that we're going into, they're in the wrong. If we go back to another 2020 scenario, you could have these soldiers, which I think they are, living in military bases and hotels across the country, deployed to man checkpoints, and they will have access to this facial recognition technology. Don't forget, soldiers will probably be sent, our army or military will be sent away to bloody have some stupid war with Russia or whatever. Meanwhile, this lot in RAF Wethersfield or Epping Hotel, etc., will be deployed to man the M25, will be deployed to block the A120 and M11, you know, and to operate for whatever reason the government finds next, which will probably be, personally, I'm still leaning towards the after effects of the jabs that took place. Maybe it'll be like a long-term thing 5-6 years later where people finally start getting ill from it and gives them an opportunity to bring in round 2 of 2020, shall we say. But they would have access to all your information on this facial recognition technology that's creeping in. Probably sums up why they're trying to bring the police force into like a more left-wing sort of ideology, because it's all going to be anti-patriotism and anti-conservative mindset. But anyway, there's your social credit. You know, it already exists in China. As some of you have seen on some of my videos, for example, I'll get to a China bit in a minute. I get into arguments with people sometimes about the camera or whatever, but we can both walk away and both be anonymous, which works well for both of us. You know, they don't want me coming around and, I don't know, chucking a brick through the window or coming to have another argument with them, and I don't want them coming and tracking me down. So we walk away anonymously. However, with facial recognition, that's not possible. You know, they would probably have access to all your information, your address, everything, where you wouldn't actually, to be fair, more than likely. But this is a perfect example of what could happen in the future if you were tied into a digital ID with social credit and facial recognition.
What's the issue here, Hannah?
Intimidation and profanity.
Oh, no, I was not intimidating.
Don't speak, ma'am.
I was just trying to...
Okay, so, in order to restore calm, I'm invoking my authority as airport security to dock you 1 full ranking point as a punitive measure. This is a temporary measure.
No!
The score reverts to normal in 24 hours.
No, but I need it now.
Period, all down votes up.
You know, so if you just had an argument with someone over something totally normal, they have the power to just kind of go, right, we're docking you a full point, which means you can't travel, you can't go and get that food you wanted at the end of the night, etc., etc. It's total control, and that's what it's all about when you get down to it. So there's a bit to do with China's social credit system. Our government pretty much spunks in their pants over China's models.
Now the Chinese are also ranked, given a mark out of a possible 950 points. A score in the 700s is considered good. Around the 500 mark is not.
The thing is, though, it's what the government considers good. You know, I think it was Mike Tyson that said these people that make laws have got their own agendas.
Not. For now, the number is a sort of bank credit rating, keeping track of everyone's spending habits.
I think being ranked is a good thing. A society has...
Typical normie NPC, especially with all that China went through. In fact, how old is this video? 6 years ago. Yeah, 2019. So just before Cough 19 happened. So I wonder if their opinions have changed. Young kids as well, obviously. So, but yeah. So I've covered enough, I think. I'll just find that Mike Tyson clip to finish on.
If you made a mistake, you rescind.
Whose law said that? The law of the United States?
Yeah.
Or who controls the law of the United States?
Legislatures.
Yeah, legislators that have their whole own agenda. Laws mean nothing. You give me the currency of a country and you can have you can make all the rules in the world. And that's all that matters. Who's in control?
So then you'll be surprised if this hearing comes out in your favor.
Absolutely.
Even though you have a very upbeat lawyer.
What a legend. No, and you find out a lot of heavyweight boxers actually, like Tyson Fury, Muhammad Ali, obviously Mike Tyson, like loads of them, you know, they're actually very philosophical and intelligent people as well. They would have been your proper kings and leaders of back in the day, you know. Yeah, so I think that's about it really. I've rambled bloody on for about 20 odd minutes. I'll be amazed if anyone watched all of this, but I just wanted to get my take on it out there and back it up with clips of movie. I'm a bit of a movie geek as well, because I understand that movies are about them showing us their plans, and the news is just entertainment really. So what's the old saying, like, because everything's upside down in this world courtesy of their agendas. So the news is fiction. What is it again? Yeah, so it's fiction is truth and truth is fiction. So movies are obviously meant to be fiction, but in reality they're truth. Hence why so many movies have just come, it's totally accurate. And then obviously the news is a load of bollocks. It's just there to try and control the narrative and pump nonsense into your head. So you're constantly in a state of doublethink. But if you understand their plan, how they work, how they operate, they tell you the truth in their movies, and then they lie to you in the news. It must be just like psychological warfare again. There's a reason why back in the day we used to say acting was the lowest form of profession. Final thing to finish on, talking about movies and how they sort of play us on movies. What's his name, Charlie Kirk. Sorry, I haven't really looked, I don't mean that to be nasty, but I've never really looked into it much, to be honest, because I've just thought it's another psyop to try and probably start a civil war or something. But assassinated on September the 10th by a round to the left hand side of his neck, I believe. And there's a movie called Snake Eyes with Nicolas Cage where during a boxing match, a guy called Charlie Kirk. This movie came out in 1998, by the way. So what we're talking 27 years. Oh yeah, 27. The number 27, isn't it? That's 3 9s. Obviously invert that, it's 3 6s. But you got the 27 club with Jimi Hendrix and Morrison and all these sort of celebrities. Amy Winehouse all mysteriously died at 27. But anyway, in this movie, a guy called Charlie Kirk gets assassinated. Similar sort of settings as obviously what happened a few weeks ago. So that's just one example. Could go on and on with all these movies. I mean, like They Live, that began with, you know, where we're talking about by the year 2025. That movie was made back in 1988. So yeah, again, you know, it's just far too close to reality of what's going on. Children of Men, you know, set in 2027. Yeah, and then you've got Muslims rioting in England. You've got hardcore leftists, anarchists trying to tear Britain down. You know, again, it's just a bit too close to the truth with Antifa, and I don't know. Again, movies are designed to show you what they're planning, and it's up to you what you do about it. And to conclude on, obviously, just don't take the digital ID. It needs mass non-conformance. You know, it requires everybody to make an effort. The online petition is definitely a brilliant thing because it's like an immediate sort of vote almost that you're kind of saying that we're not going to take it. I think it needs 10,000 people to go to government. We're 24 hours in and there's like 1.5 million people signed it, and hopefully that will go up to millions. It needs to keep growing, and everyone just needs to say no. It only takes 5 minutes, if out of your time, to sign it. For the time being, that's all we can do. Next week, when various institutions and jobs and yes men careerists within these jobs and institutions start trying to force it, you know, I've made up my mind long ago, like the COVID jabs, you know, I ain't taking it, and even if that means I have to go and live in the woods or whatever, that's what I'll do. So that's it. Cheers.